So there are plenty of strong video game characters, and you may suggest, for example, Kratos is the strongest video game character. And for good reason. Kratos in the ancient Greek literally translates to strength or power, so you've got that going for you. Another one is the Minecraft player character Steve. Steve can carry magical chests full of other magical chests full of incredibly dense, impossible magical apples. And no strength tier list is complete without mentioning Kirby. Kirby can absorb anything and anyone, including their powers. I don't know. Kind of broken if you ask me. Valve, please fix. But the issue here with all your suggestions is that they're kind of wrong and kind of dumb. And if you ask me, to be honest, just kind of poopy. They're all clearly abusing some sort of magical system. One is gaining powers from using magical chests. Another is a literal god. And then, the third one's Kratos. With all that in mind, hi, I'm Skeldor, and today this is my presentation on why this weird looking guy is the strongest video game character. Well, not him specifically, but the old school RuneScape player character. Player is frequently reminded that you are nothing special, just a regular person bumbling and stumbling around into everyone else's business. However, what is special about the player is their raw physical strength. To demonstrate the strength of the player character, we need to ask the question, how much can the old school RuneScape player character carry? This question is important to answer because they're not relying on any magic. They're simply putting stuff into their backpack and carrying it on their back. So the matter of fact answer to the question, how much weight can you carry in old school RuneScape, is answered like this. You can carry a maximum of 28 items in your inventory. If we want to maximize the amount of weight that we have in our inventory, we need to maximize the amount of weight in each item. So then we need to ask, what is the heaviest item in old school RuneScape? Well, the heaviest item in old school RuneScape is 32 kilograms. But we have a fair few examples of 32 kilogram items. And a fairly easily accessible one is the Barrel of Coal Tar. To get these items, you can wear armor to make yourself look fat, pick up 28 barrels, get really angry at the barrels and don't let it go for a long time, then take the barrels, your pudge, your pre-existing grudge, to this sludge and scoop up 28 barrels of coal tar. 28 item slots times by 32 is 896. So that's 896 kilograms. So the boring answer is 896. Should we move on to the fun stuff? Now you might all be shouting at your screens right now, Skeldor, surely you've not forgotten that equipable items have weight as well, have you? And also, what's the best way that I can support your channel? Well, the best way to support is just by clicking the subscribe. But of course, I've not forgotten about equipable items. Equipable items do in fact have weight and they do add to your player character's total weight, so let's count them as well. Very quickly from the bottom to the top, the feet slot has the Echo Boots at 7 kilograms. The glove slot has the Elven Gloves at 4.53 kilograms. Ring slot, Granite Ring, 3 kilograms. Leg slot, Granite Legs, 15.875 kilograms. Body slot, Granite Body, 22.679 kilograms. Do you see any trends going on here? Try and guess the next one. Weapon slot. Yep, that's right. The granite trend ends here with the barrel chest anchor, which also takes up the shield slot too. Cape slot, diving apparatus, 10 kilograms. Neck slot, seal of passage, 4.535 kilograms. Ammo slot, any of the god blessings will do as they all weigh 0.51 kilograms. And finally, we started from the bottom and now we're here at the helmet slot. The helmet slot has the gold helmet, which comes in at a staggering 31.751 kilograms. And I say staggering with intent because a helmet weighing almost 32 kilograms, that's like wearing a young male sea otter on your head. But wait, I just said a helmet weighing almost 32 kilograms. Why almost? 31.751 is a very specific weird number. Why do we have objects that do weigh a clean 32 kilograms, but then also weigh this weird decimal number? What's up with that? Well, in the classic funky gunky, some parts of this game are like 25 years old, it's actually possible for the developers to input these weights as ounces, pounds, kilograms, or grams. That means they can configure the settings to the items to whatever they want, and then on the UI, it'll be recalculated and rendered in kilograms. Now you know. 31.751 kilograms is roughly 70 pounds. So it's more likely the developers put in 70 pounds and we're just seeing a rounded number on the UI. Just thought it was kind of neat. Who thinks about Imperial nowadays? Okay, so we got a little bit off track there, but now to really hone this in, we need to talk about density. Density is the ratio of a substance mass to its volume. The symbol most used for representing density is rho. And rho can be derived as such, where rho is the density, m is the mass, and v is the volume. For a pure substance, the density is equal to its mass concentration. Different materials may have different densities, and density is an important factor in things like buoyancy. Jeez, wow, this guy sucks. Is anyone else sick of this dude? This shit is so boring, I don't even know what to say about it really. All he's saying is the density is just a measure of a given object's mass to its ratio of volume. If you have the given volume and you have the given mass, you can use the Bernoulli principle to calculate the laminar flow. Yeah, I'm sorry about these two. They kind of get carried away with this explanation stuff. Let's just say that density is just how much stuff you have in a given place. If you know the stuff and you know the place, you can calculate the density. This is important because you can compare this density to other things that you know the density of. This gives you a spectrum of density where you can tell, okay, I can see that this thing is more or less dense than this other thing. Some things can have really low densities like air or water. Other things can have really high densities like the gravity crushed core of a sun, or people that enjoy playing as a chunk-locked Iron Man, for example. So an interesting side effect of RuneScape being a video game is that it was programmed in a programming language, in this case, Java. And an interesting side effect of RuneScape being programmed in a programming language is that it's constrained by the language that it was written in. An interesting side effect of this is that, to cut the memes for 1 second. An integer is what most people call a whole number. Whole numbers, or integers, in Java are capable of holding a number that is represented as 2 to the 32, which if we run the numbers is 2,147,483,647. Okay, memes back on again. This gives an interesting side effect, that the maximum number of items that we can have in a single stack is 2,147,000,000, and so on and so on. Which, when visually shortened, is where we get the iconic max cache stack image from. So for now, hold in your head the number that we need to consider at all times is 2 billion. We're going to ignore the rest of the 147 million, so on and so on. 2 billion, okay? 2 billion. 2 billion, 2 billion, 2 billion. 2 billion, 2 billion, 2 billion. 2 billion, 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 2 billion. So in order to know how much we can carry, we need to know how much 2 billion things weigh. Well, here we have an interesting dilemma. Stackable items don't actually have a weight assigned to them in the game. Wait, no weight? No way. No weight! Gosh, is there really no way for us to continue here? No way. No. Weight. Yes, weight. Stackable items do have a weight, at least some of them. For example, coins. Coins have an assigned weight of 2 grams each. A stack of 2 billion coins weighs 4 billion grams, would you believe? That's approximately the weight of a Saturn V rocket, which, okay, now we're actually getting somewhere. This guy is carrying an entire space rocket in his backpack. A little side point from all this is that RuneScape coins are made from gold. We know this because the High Alchemy spell turns things into gold and doesn't work on coins because they're already made out of gold. 2 grams of gold is worth approximately 80 pounds or $100. This is insane. Like, the lowest denomination of the Gillenorian currency is $100. Common household objects in the general store are like crazy priced. It's $300 for a single spade I mean, I guess now I know why PKs are so excited to get mine. Back in 2005, when RuneScape was really on its feet, the dollar price of 2 grams of gold was $28. Now, after 20 years of inflation, 2 grams of gold is more like $222. Crazy. RuneScape has actually been used before as a mathematical model for examining inflation, and this paper did exactly that and laid out a list of rules that govern how a currency tends to inflate over time. There's truly some fascinating stuff in there, with this rule in particular being one of my favorites. I don't want to spoil it for you, but if you're interested, just Google RuneScape inflation rule 34. Anyway, I think we can do better than a single rocket ship. So it's maybe kind of a little bit dumb, but what about like noted items? Notes are massive on the floor, but for now, just to keep it a little bit more real, we'll consider them to be the weight of a single A4 piece of paper. An 80 GSM standard plain old regular run-of-the-mill basic piece of ordinary paper weighs 5 grams. We already know we can have up to 2 billion things in one single stack, and now we have 28 stacks of these pieces of paper. 2 billion times 5 grams times by our 28 inventory slots equals 3 times 10 to the 8. And that's kilograms, by the way, which really is a huge number. Just so everyone's on the same page, this is what we call standard scientific notation. You take the number at the start, and then you put that many zeros at the end of it. There's 3 with 8 zeros after it, which is huge. That's like carrying an entire Empire State Building in your backpack. Those boots of lightness are really struggling now, eh? But we need to go heavier. We can do a lot better than this. We need to be carrying lots of dense, heavy objects for me to prove my point here. The rune plate body is a rather dense and heavy object, but unfortunately it's just not stackable. We really need stackable items to make the most of the 28 inventory slots we have. What we need here is cannonballs. Now we need some sort of reference here because cannonballs in game are just like truly insanely massive. Let's work with a more reasonable real life comparison. The issue is then, what do we possibly compare to the real life size of a cannonball? Oh yeah, we could use my cannonball. This is my cannonball. There are many like it, but this one is mine. Oh, Jesus Christ. This cannonball weighs 8. Fuck me. Oh, this cannonball weighs 8 kilograms. And that is a lot of weight to have in such a small place. It's very difficult to maneuver. Cannonballs are perfect for this experiment. They're metal, and so they're incredibly dense. They're real, and so we have something to compare them against, unlike rune plate bodies, which is just make-believe. And they're also a stackable item, and so we can have 2 billion of them in one slot. 2 billion of these! Now Jagex obviously doesn't want you only holding 28 of these in your inventory, and so it allows you to stack them up to 2 billion. Yes, that's right, 2 billion. So if we were to have 2 billion cannonballs in each stack, 56 billion cannonballs in one inventory. 2 billion times by 8 kilograms times by our 28 slots. Oh, jeez. That's roughly like carrying the entire Pyramid of Giza in your backpack. 73 times over. The perfect number for a RuneScape video. That's 4.48 times 10 to the 11 kilograms. 4 with 11 zeros after it. That's approximately the weight of every human being living on the planet currently, stuffed into one backpack. So 73 Pyramids of Giza is obviously mind-bogglingly insane. It's sort of hard to even rationalize, really. But it gets worse when we talk about the density of that object. Now, we don't have an accurate measurement of the size of the backpack in RuneScape, but I do have the next best thing. A Jagex official RuneFest backpack, which would be the perfect visual example for us. Measuring the volume is the easy part. The backpack is very roughly 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters. The tricky bit comes around when you start trying to fill this tiny volume with 56 billion cannonballs. We can do 1, 2, 3, and at 9, you're already starting to damage the fabric. So let's pretend that this backpack is indestructible and nothing can fall out of it either. Scaling all the way up to 56 billion, An object this massive at this size doesn't commonly exist in the universe. Objects can get this dense, and maybe you've heard of dwarf stars. In this case, our backpack is comparable to a white dwarf star. But that's enough about what's going on inside the bag. Let's talk about the effects outside the bag. We have a couple cool little options on how we can interpret the immediate cataclysmic destruction that occurs. Option 1, we can ignore the interactions between the backpack and the earth and just consider being in its general vicinity. What would it be like to touch such an object? Touching the backpack would be near instant death. It's useful to describe gravity in comparison to other objects that we already know the gravitational effects of. G is the gravitational effect that we feel on Earth. The gravity at the surface of this object is roughly equal to 135 G. So that's the gravity you'd feel on Earth times by 135. Comparisons are important, so for comparison, the gravitational effects that you'd feel on Jupiter, the most massive planet in our solar system, is 2.5 G. 25 G is what you'd feel on the surface of the sun. This is 135 G. Your finger would be pulled into and onto the surface of the backpack, spreading out evenly into a red mist. Your finger would pull your arm, which would pull your body. There's a word for this, and it's about as terrible a fate as it sounds. Spaghettification. Spaghettification, followed by immediate liquidification into a thin red film across the outside of the backpack. Lovely. Okay, all that was just option 1. For option 2, let's now ignore the interaction between you and the backpack and consider what the backpack itself is going to do to the Earth. Now, the backpack is heavy, but nothing in comparison to the weight of the entire Earth. So if you were to drop it from, say, 1 meter high, it would take the same amount of time to hit the ground as just a kilogram of bricks. But both of these would hit the ground way before a kilogram of feathers, because feathers are lighter than bricks. Dropping it from just 1 meter high, the impact force is roughly equal to about a kiloton of TNT. That much energy in that smaller place is just insane. Basically, every clumsy fumble is a mini nuke. This is the kind of energy that instantly vaporizes a crater into the ground several meters wide, and then goes on to damage and destroy houses for miles. And that's just if you dropped it. If you placed the object on the ground, the destruction doesn't end there. It'll crush straight through concrete. It just keeps going and going, boring itself a nice smoking tunnel all the way down, rattling the planet with earthquakes until it settles somewhere near the core. Like locally, it's absolute chaos. Like floors are collapsing, the ground is caving in, seismic waves rippling out. But globally, the Earth kind of just shrugs. It's still a tiny fraction of the planet's mass. But yeah, in the immediate area, you've basically just spawned a gravity-powered wrecking ball that drills its way to hell. So yeah, with all that in mind, I just want to reiterate my point here. The strongest video game character isn't some god of war or a pink vacuum cleaner. It's this silly, goofy little guy, wearing a green party hat while somehow carrying the weight of 72 pyramids in his backpack. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was my proof. Feel free to rip me apart and tell me I'm wrong in the comments, because I dropped physics in first year of uni because I thought it was too hard. We're at the end of the video now, and I'm Skeldor. Just please remember, forget magical apples, forget divine rage. True strength is politely asking the Varrock banker to withdraw your cannonballs and single-handedly becoming an extinction level event. Thank you for watching.